I've been asked the question a couple of times, what do the graduates of a gunsmithing school need to know to be useful to me in the shop when they walk in the door? That's a hell of a question. And it's come up in the context of, you know, can I learn enough to be a gunsmith off the internet? And I think we need to pull that back one full loop here. I've asked the question to my patrons. I've asked the question out on the grand YouTube verse. What do you want as a professional? And what I'm thinking is this: we got to pull back one full layer, because in order to be a gunsmith, you've got to be a carpenter, a plumber, a metal worker. You've got to be a lot of things to be a gunsmith, but they're all trades. And how do you learn a trade, and what kind of an education do you need to learn a trade? And I will cut to the chase here and say that I don't think you need to know bupkis about firearms, but you should know some basic things about industrial hygiene, personal habits. What do you come to the game with? Can I trust you when I turn my back on you? So this trade is unique because if you roll a thumbprint on a gun, I'm responsible for it. I'm responsible for every single stinking thing you touch in here. If you make a mistake as a plumber's apprentice, the plumber is responsible for it. So I guess what it comes right down to is, are you the kind of guy that knows how to check his ego at the door and realize that you really don't know anything when you walk in the door? I have to be able to teach you and hold an umbrella over your head long enough that you can make enough mistakes to gain the experience necessary to perform in the trade we're talking about. And I mean, dentists, that's a trade. You got to know an awful lot of stuff to be a dentist. You got to know an awful lot of stuff to be a plumber, an electrician. The number one cause of death amongst electricians is falling off of ladders. Not a lot of people know that. I was an electrician and an apprentice, and I did that in the Navy, and they taught me a lot of stuff, but I showed up with certain skills that were instilled in me when I was from about the age of 8 till around the age of 18. I was taught, what end of a hot soldering iron do you pick up? That's good to know. I'm rambling a little bit, but I think what it comes right down to it is do you have the personal discipline to be taught something? And there are a lot of people that don't want to take the time to learn something. Why do I need to spend 10 years getting a black belt when I can just buy one off of Amazon? So the question then becomes, can I learn enough from the internet to be able to start learning a trade? And I don't think you can. You have to pick up a tool and start screwing up. And sooner or later, your screw ups start looking like work. And then comes that magical day when someone offers you money to screw up. And then after you've been doing it for a while, if you're a particularly self-abusive person, shoot video of it so that people can kibitz you for screwing up forever. So if you want to learn a trade, do a little bit of reading, but the time you needed to start figuring out that you wanted to learn a trade was when you were in the 5th grade. I taught high school. And what I found out in high school, and it was true in my case, in the 5th grade, I wanted to do electrical things and I wanted to do firearms. I just did. My dad was a fabulous shot. They called him Dead-Eye Dick in the Air Force because the guy could hit anything from anything with anything. He was the only guy that knew that the only person on this planet that was never going to fly a turbine-powered aircraft was me. You got to have a little titch of ADD, I think. It helps to be a bit CDO, which is OCD, in alphabetical order, the way it's supposed to be. But how do you identify that? And And how is that? When did we learn what we learned? You have to know enough math to get something done. So you have to have been taught math. You have to have been taught how to read and write and communicate in the written word. You have to have been taught how to follow instructions. There's a lot of that, and a lot of that's not happening in today's world, and it's going to have to start happening soon. We can teach you what you need to know to make sure that you don't make the really nasty mistakes that we've made, right? And after that, I don't think you can learn that off the internet. I don't think you should spend your entire GI Bill not learning it off the internet. I don't think it's doable. I think you have to have picked up a screwdriver, picked up a tool, and started working. As a gunsmith, I'm self-taught. But I was self-taught with a very large cross-section of skills that were built into me by my uncles, my grandfather, my father, was all passed on. So in the nature versus nurture argument, it's a lot of both. You have to have it in you, and somebody has to have showed you how to do it. Again, it's a bit of a ramble, but not everybody can just walk in here and be useful to me, or anybody for that matter. There's no prejudice here. You're all equally worthless. And once you understand that, and I understand at the age of 62 that I don't know squat, there comes a moment in your life when you sit straight up in bed at about the age of 32 and you realize, oh my God, they're paying me how much to not know what I'm doing? And look up Dunning-Kruger. The Dunning-Kruger curve pretty much explains it. And you can't work on things that will hurt people. So automotive mechanics, welders, boy, you want to talk about a skill where you got to do an awful lot of research in order to be able to be a welder? There's more to it than just burning Lincoln Lock, man. So if you kind of have, the entire gunsmithing trade is not building AR-15s. I hate to tell you that. It's knowing what angle to stone a sear at and why. And that's the big one. In a trade, knowing what to do is not nearly as important as knowing why you're doing it. Because when you make a mistake, what do you do? The first thing I tell every single person that walks in this room that's an apprentice, and I've had 17 of them, is you are going to screw one of my customers' jobs up. It's going to happen. What do we do about that? You're going to screw the plumbing up. You're going to screw up the electrical. If you haven't let the smoke out of something, you're not doing anything. So to summarize all of this, you have to be able, you have to have been taught how to learn, and you have to be willing to make enough mistakes to gain enough experience to become proficient. And there's the word for it. I'm qualified to operate the electric plant on a second flight Los Angeles class submarine, but I haven't been proficient in 34 years, right? So you have to be able to walk in the door, check your ego at the door, and learn. And that's hard for some people, but we're going to have to get back to that. So if you can't learn from your mistakes, you're not going to make it in here. You're not going to make it in any trade. You're not going to make it pushing paper. There are a lot of guys that push paper for a living that have to push paper or else society does not operate. So know that, and know that when I've had a lot of people that have bounced off me that want to be apprentices that haven't even learned how to drive a car yet. And you just can't be like that and handle things that can hurt people. So what I need you to be able to do when you walk in the door is I need you to know the basic math skills. I need you to know something about how a business operates, because no matter what you're doing, you're operating a business. At the end of the day, everything's a business. You are a personal services corporation because there's more to it than just production. There's research and development. There's finance. You have to be able to do finance, and there's sales. You can't sell things if you smell bad. And there are a lot of people that try to do it. There's 4 things. You have to operate your life that way, and then you have to pick up a sharp tool or a loaded ballpoint pen and get on about getting on about it. Just saying.